So simply what just transition is, it is element of an element that is grounded in the Paris Agreement, which is reflected in the preamble of the Paris Agreement, where with all the work that has been going on in terms of mitigation, adaptation, and the effect of climate change on the environment and on persons, there must be a smooth transition of the workforce into the newer elements of what is considered the new economy or green economy. So it is an element that is grounded in the Paris Agreement. And what it attempts to do is minimize and carefully manage any challenges related to the impacts of climate change on the world of work. What it also does is maximize the social and economic opportunities of climate action, and it facilitates decent work outcomes, ensuring social dialogue and the respect for the international labor standards and the processes involved. So with respect to the next slide, please. With respect to the key Caribbean priorities we have here is utilizing the GSC, which Rana just spoke about, as the tool to assist us in terms of what we need to have to enable a just transition. So in attending COP, I was privileged or a part of the technical dialogue that dealt with just transition and the response measures, how we respond to this movement. And in that session, we were able or privy to hear of different activities and plans that have already been adopted by certain countries in this just transition process. And Trinidad and Tobago, which you heard Mr. Kumar Singh talk about earlier, is well on the way in terms of this just transition policy and plan that we have locally. So we have a draft policy and an implementation plan, which we will speak about later on, but that is something that we are doing currently with respect to the just transition. The second priority is to draw up an inventory, which is again gathering information on what it means to have a smooth transition with the workforce, develop guidelines, and share best practices and experiences. That also occurred in the GST technical dialogue. And finally, fostering coherence between climate mitigation and actions. So all these things are interlinked. Marley would have mentioned the conversation of just transition happening within the mitigation work program. Next slide. So the outcomes of the just transition discussion, we saw the implementation or the establishment, of a work program for just transition on the pathways of achieving the goals under the Paris Agreement. And it is implemented in a way that builds on the work being done in the mitigation work program. And with respect to other items such as the global goal and adaptation, which we did not speak about, but all are interlinked. And then we have the launch of that work in terms of the elaboration of a draft decision on the pathways of just transition, which will be adopted at the next COP. And finally, creation of the annual high-level ministerial roundtable on just transition to speak about exactly what it means, what just transition means, and how it will benefit and work for all countries or all parties at COP28. Next slide, final slide. I said I would be brief. So we move on to what is next. As indicated, there is a just transition policy, draft policy, and an implementation plan currently being worked on in Trinidad and Tobago. And the just transition must be a managed transition. We can't just allow things to flow willy-nilly or just because changes are happening, but it must be something that is managed. It must be something that all stakeholders are involved. There must be dialogue. It must be considering development of skills and the retraining of green jobs, developing green enterprises, providing social protection, minimizing hardships. All these factors must be encompassed when we deal with how we transition into the green economy. So we look at the further development of new industries, such as carbon capture and storage. And then on an international level, we deal with the removal of barriers for the development of different technology under the Paris Agreement, because technology was a subtopic discussed also at the COP, and we must ensure that there is capacity, we must ensure that there is the political will, and everything that goes with enabling a smooth ground for this transition. So I thank you very much for your attention.